live. Let's see if it works. Okay, it says we're live now. So let's see if people
Okay.
can actually hear us. Can anyone hear me in the little live stream thing to the side? There's probably gonna be technical difficulties. I wouldn't be surprised if the first 10 minutes are just us goofing around trying to get things to work.
It says people are waiting.
Yeah.
It's
Waiting.
waiting.
It says we're
Oh.
live.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
Are we live now? Does it actually say we're live now?
So, yeah.
Okay,
We're
it's
live.
just okay. Then it's just very delayed on my end. Whenever I click something, it takes like 30 seconds to actually do it. But can anyone hear me?
Yes, they can.
All right. So can you guys hear people other than me? Because last time we did this, I talked for like 10 minutes and no one could hear anyone else, and it sounded like I was just talking to the air. Can you guys hear Deox and Exo guys say stuff? And of course they don't say anything.
You're going robot though.
My connection's probably pretty bad. I wouldn't be surprised if my internet dies in the middle of the stream, which it did. It did a few months ago when I did a stream. The internet just died in the middle of it. I'm poor. Okay, so you guys can hear me, and you guys can hear everyone other than me. I don't sound like I'm talking to ghosts. Okay, it looks like everyone can hear me and hear you guys. So I think it worked without any technical difficulties. I think that's the first. That's the first time we got one of these to work. Can Deox and Exo hear me though?
Yes.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you guys could hear me. All right, I think we got this to work without any technical difficulties, and that's the first time that's ever happened. All right, so welcome to another Nephy podcast stream, whatever you want to call it. We kind of have a topic. Hopefully, we'll stick with it, but we usually go on tangents in these unprofessional live streams, so the topic probably will only last like 10 minutes. Do you guys want to start with Labrynna or what?
I guess I think people are pretty excited. I think Labrynna is probably like the most recurring conquest term I like for the last honestly the past 2 years.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
Labrynna.
Labrynna is the most popular faction in the game, which still confuses me kind of, but to answer, I think it's Sir Aaron's question. Yes, that's Labrynna's new symbol. I updated it a little bit.
I'm gonna update it again probably.
Yeah, I'll probably update it again. I'll update all the icons for all the factions in 5 years and then remodel them in Super HD. I don't think I'll be remodeling any of their existing units when I put them in over the next week. I do have to model some new units that weren't in the Total War version of the game, but I think I'll be their units the same. I did, however, completely remodel all of their buildings. If you're a patron, you've seen them already, but I haven't shown them publicly yet. Labrynna's got... I finished all their buildings, actually. I showed them on the patron Discord the other day. Well, almost all of them, but yeah, I completely redid their aesthetic. I wasn't happy with their old buildings.
You're going completely robot for me.
Yeah.
I'm going completely robot. Do I sound robot to everyone in the stream?
It just happens occasionally, so
It's probably just my internet connection. It's probably really terrible right now, which it usually is.
Speaking of the sigil, did you make it more like bronzy? Or is
Yes.
it some kind of Mandela effect? Okay, yes, so you did. I actually like the coloration way more than
Yeah.
this one that you.
bronze and copper as opposed to brass.
Yeah.
I was actually considering making it gold, but there's so many gold factions in the game that like
Honestly, I think keeping it more bronze fits more with their theme. Like
Yeah.
overall theme.
it's ironic because they're technically a step ahead of of all the other powers, but yeah.
I symbolic. He doesn't need to make
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Symbolic. Exactly.
Well,
You beat me
well,
to it.
before we continue, if people are interested in leaked images, you can go to Exodarian on Discord for
Thanks.
a reasonable price. For a reasonable price, I am willing to give something, but we'll see about that.
Drat. Yeah, I went for their buildings. I went with a Romanesque kind of architecture. I looked at like a bunch of Spanish cathedrals and stuff from between the 1200s and 1500s, and I kind of went with that because I thought I really liked that architecture. But then I got really pissed when I started adding pipes to all of them, and I'm like, this is a desecration of a beautiful architecture. I just wanted to get rid of all the pipes.
I mean, it's kind of the point, yeah. Like we talked about it. It kind of is the point.
Yeah,
Uh,
thematically it fits. Like they're all about ruining everything beautiful in the world. I guess that'll lead to a gameplay mechanic of theirs that I guess I'll talk about. Right now in Hyrule Conquest, the Kingdom of Hyrule, they have this thing where like all their buildings upgrade. I'm getting rid of that for the Kingdom of Hyrule, and that's going to be one of Labrynna's gimmicks, where they have fewer buildings that they can build, and in order to get their better buildings, they upgrade their existing ones. So they have like a kind of tiered sort of tech tree. The Kingdom of Hyrule is not going to have that anymore. They're going to be a little more Age of Empires ish, I guess. Wow, we're getting a lot of questions in the chat. I should probably keep up with it. We'll probably just do a Q&A at the end, but some of these are related, so I guess I'll answer some of them.
yeah, we can. If they're related questions, I guess we can. Like,
Someone was asking about navies. I actually will have, because in the campaign Labrynna's navy is kind of present, so we'll probably actually see Labrynna's navy before everyone else's navy. Probably not in the next release, but when I start on the Labrynna missions, we'll see some Labrynna boats because their navy is present during that storyline. It's not. It only really participates in one of the missions when they're suppressing the Crescent Islands, but yeah, we'll actually probably see Labrynna's navy before anyone else.
which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, though, like when thinking of Labrynna, navy is not the first thing that kind of comes to mind at all. Like obviously they would have a form of it due to their proximity to this, the sea, but it's not like the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah, most of the factions in the game actually do have some kind of naval presence. It's just to what degree. The Hylians, they used to, but they kind of got closed off to the ocean, so they don't really have one currently. Most of their ships probably just ended up in the hands of like Lanayru, or I guess the Gerudo, because they had ports in the west, and then the Gerudo ended up kind of taking over them. So
yeah,
let's see. That chat's going by pretty fast. Let me see if there's any questions going by. So someone says, Anthony Thibert, saying in the mercenary video, saying that Labrynna will be able to curb stomp minor factions far easier than others. How will that work? I think how that will work is just all their units will have a capture bonus against buildings controlled by minor factions, and they'll probably just have a damage bonus against minor faction units. So they'll be able to just slaughter minor faction units and then capture their buildings faster than anyone else. But that also means that if someone else that they're fighting gains control of a minor faction unit, they'll have damage bonuses against any of the units that they train from a minor faction. So yeah, that'll be kind of cool.
yeah.
When Labrynna has a navy before the Zora. The Zora don't really need a navy because they're kind of aquatic creatures. Like they are a navy by their nature, I guess.
Yeah.
They will have some exclusively aquatic units when I do add navies into the game, though. They'll have some creature stuff that can't go on land, but because all of their land units can go in the water, the Zora won't have like a dedicated navy. Um, probably kind of similar with Laniru. Laniru will probably have some ships, maybe. And the Zora, now that I think about it, the Zora probably would have some kind of aquatic vessel to like ship cargo. Because I don't think, unless they have like giant schools of Zora that just carry cargo, like little
I
bits of
mean,
cargo.
they could have carriers.
Yeah. The
Like
Zora
that would
probably
be.
would have something to carry large loads of cargo across.
I mean,
You
it's
know,
easier to float in terms of movement.
yeah.
Even if they are aquatic, it's more easy to like with their tech level. It's way easier to transport stuff by having it float on something. Regardless of their aquatic natures, it wouldn't make sense.
Yeah, so the Zora probably would. Yeah, they probably would. They probably would build some kind of ship for, probably not for warfare, but for cargo, because they could just board enemy ships like without any problem. They don't really need warships. Um, and if they want to siege a city from the ocean, they can just park their mage cannons and fire them from the ocean. I guess. So yeah, they don't really need. I don't know. There's probably some expert in naval warfare who would be like, no, aquatic creatures, they need a navy too. And I don't know. I'd be willing to listen to them, and they could convince me that the
They
Zora
would
need a
have
navy.
yeah, like just based on how naval warfare works, they would have a navy, but not a traditional one. You know,
Yeah, just because the fact that they can move so freely in the water. Like I feel like they would just board enemy ships and incapacitate them. And then
yeah.
anyone who was in a prolonged war with the Zora, they try to develop some technique to prevent them from boarding ships rather than loading their boats with cannons and stuff.
Honest, honestly, I kind of see the Sora's version of naval warfare to be heavily reliant on guerrilla tactics. Because
Yeah,
when you can sabotage ships without being reliably detected, then it doesn't make sense to have
yeah, that's
attack directly.
that's definitely how the River Zora in my mind, how their ocean stuff operates. They have creatures that can. They have a lot of melee creatures that can sneak up onto ships and sabotage them. I like how the stream has already turned into like the Great Sea
Yeah,
expansion. We've already moved on from Labrynna. Yeah, just for the record, I personally am not a big fan of Labrynna, despite the fact that everyone else loves them. So
really.
yeah,
I
they aren't as interesting to me as I guess navies from other factions.
I think that's like 70% of the like conversations we had the past couple of weeks now is like, oh, Labrynna sucks.
I don't I don't hate I don't hate them like in term like from a purely gameplay perspective. I imagine I would have some fun playing as them. They're not like the Lizzlefoss where I'm just like bored to tears playing as them. I'm pretty sure at this point the Lizzlefoss are my least favorite faction in the game. I don't enjoy playing as them. I don't their culture bothers me and I don't know. I don't like the Lizzlefoss. Labrynna, there is something fun about training a bunch of men with rifles and just gunning down Zoras and Gorons with rifles, even if you don't like the ideology behind them. But
Yeah, like
I am more interested in the Great Sea stuff than Labrynna, so I'm not surprised we're already talking about navies.
I think that's kind of how most people will or has pursued Labrynna. I said like ideologically, obviously they're wrong, but it's just that idea of that very push for progress, I guess, that people find kind of romantic. I
Yeah.
would assume. Uh, I
I
think that's
think
a big
people do
reason why.
romanticize them, which is strange because in today's like modern culture, Labrynna would be shamed to death. Like Labrynna is literally like they have slavery. Uh, they don't have human rights or just rights for any beings really. They think themselves superior to everyone. They literally are like they're not ethnocentric, but they're definitely like they're culture centric. Like they think their culture is better than everyone else, and they're constantly going around destroying everyone's religions. They want to conquer everyone. They're like the ultimate imperialists. So I find it kind of funny that so many people love them. That I know that this holds no meaning this day and age, but they're probably the closest thing to like pre-modern Nazis that could possibly exist. Just get rid of the ethnicity angle. They're basically that.
No, like that someone, I think Sir Aaron in the chat, he expressed like, please don't make them, the standard trope that technology or industry is automatically a bad thing and secularism is bad. But it's more like,
They're
I
not
guess it's
technology is bad because eventually Hyrule gets a hold of their technology and incorporates it. The problem with Labrynna is, let me see if I can find a way to put it into words. You'll probably be able to do it better than me, but it's
I mean, think the main core of Labrynna and what makes them problematic is that despite all their, their progress, they have not had the time to properly adapt to the changes that technology has impacted their culture and society, and they have like they're basically toddlers playing with toys they don't understand, and that's kind of a big theme. And they're
that's
going really
definitely
hard
part of
into it
it.
without really yeah, they're not really understanding the repercussions at all, and you can tell that about the environment in Labrynna. Like they they don't really understand like the long term uh, consequences
they're
of
they're
that
they're
progress.
yeah, they're so obsessed with progress that they do not they're very short-sighted basically. That's probably the simplest way to sum them up. They do
Well,
not see the long-term consequences of introducing things that have never existed into the world.
Well, it's also because they were gifted
yeah,
this
That's true.
technology,
They
right?
were they were well, that's not 100% true. They were developing the stuff before Varen came along. Varen kind of just was like, "Oh, I have the missing pieces to the puzzle. Here you go." And then that really allowed them to take off.
So what
yeah.
is their real goal? Is it just world domination?
It basically is. They want to control the world like a lot of colonial powers. They want to quote unquote educate, the
I think
savages.
yeah, we did. Me and Neff did talk a bit not too long ago and way back as well. It's like I do think there's for like your average person in a relatively high position within Labrynna society. I do believe there's a genuine desire to spread the prosperity they have had the past couple of
Yeah. It's
de-
it's ironic because they are technically a secular nation, but their behavior is incredibly religious,
yeah.
which isn't ironic if you understand human nature. But it's always funny when that happens. It's always funny when that happens to me. But yeah, they're basically they're spreading their belief by force.
Yeah, because and I mean, obviously it's a very toxic mindset, but you can't really blame them because if you look at the state,
No, you
okay, this
can't
sounds
blame
really
them. It's like it's no surprise
no,
they're like that at all.
like you have the crazy fucking scrubs right over there, and you have some crazy lizard people that would trade their own people for some clothes. Obviously, they think everyone is crazy and they don't understand like the potential that they're you can be able to harness, and they're like, yeah, okay, we need to show these people
Yeah,
what's good.
even in the real world, like in the early 20th century, it's no surprise like all the secular nations went insane. Like in the early 20th century, like if you look at the history, several hundred years leading, basically from Aquinas all the way to World War II, like you can see the trail, you can see the method behind the madness that led to all the secular nations going insane and destroying nearly destroying the known world.
I mean,
It's
yeah,
no
and like
surprise. It's hard to. I mean, it's easy to look back and be like, "Wow, they were all dirt bags," but it's no surprise that they ended up the way they did, and everything culminated in a pair of world wars.
yeah, I mean, I think if you're somewhat well someone that has some knowledge about symbolic thought and mythology, you look at the Black Tower and it's very apparent what it means, and I think the Black Tower is like the
It's not subtle at all.
no, it's like
The fact that it's very masculine too, like it's not
yeah,
subtle at all.
it's like it's very obvious what they're all about. That doesn't mean make them evil though. There's always new more nuance to it, but it's not good either, right?
No,
It's really not good.
I would say collectively See, I personally do believe in good and evil. I'm not a freaking postmodernist, so I kind of want to say that collectively Labrynna is evil. Like, they are no good for the world. But obviously, if you go down to an individual level, they're not all evil
No, no.
douchebags.
Like, they're really stuck. They're really stuck. They're really shackled, essentially. Uh, and that's ultimately what the Black Tower, which is also, a representation of the Tower of Babel, or just the Brass Tower in
Well,
general.
the funny thing is also the Black Tower summons the Tweely, and the Tweely are those that live in the land of exile on the margin. They're basically it's the whole all the symbolism of the Whore of Babylon and 666 and everything. And it was unintentional on my part. They invite the margin into the center and it causes their entire society to collapse. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I did not even intend that. But the symbolism's like perfect.
The funny thing is, you can actually kind of, if you take a step back and look at it, and look at Luna City in particular, it's an artificial garden, which is really
Yeah,
cool.
well,
I'm not sure if you thought about it. If you like, the Black Tower is essentially an artificial.
all city. Well, if I can be a little broad, all cities technically are artificial gardens. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, all cities are. They're a garment of skin. They're an attempt to recreate this idea of paradise in a world that doesn't support it. That's what all cities really are. They're like mankind's terrible attempt to create like a perfect garden
I
because
just, I guess Luna City is more on the nose with the entire thing.
yeah. Because it literally is a garden that gets slowly destroyed by their own. Yeah.
It's a, it's like the ultimate analogy to the garden. It has a circle, which is the wall. It has the tree in the middle. It's like the ultimate.
Yeah, the
symbol of
Maku tree.
the
Yep.
garden.
You're right.
Yeah.
And again, that was all unintentional on my part. It just like all fell in together like nice and neat. Yes, all those old myths and stories are just built into our heads.
Yeah, someone said in the chat that the Black Tower, as a joke, but actually, if you look a bit into it, it's actually kind of true that the Black Tower is just, compensating for something, and that's kind of the idea of the Brass Tower, is that the people that built the Brass Tower, they're not capable of understanding the deeper meanings behind things, which in that context is usually related to God or spirituality, something beyond humanity. So they build their own version of it because they're not willing to understand.
Now, if you understand symbolism, it's no surprise that any tower is like masculine and phallic, like because that part of the human psyche that's required to create something like that requires a lot of masculinity. One in the rational intellect needs to design and create something, and then also for the physical work, the physical effort needed to create something like that. It's no surprise that physically, like I know it sounds funny, but like like it's no surprise that the actual physical structure like has to be like that, regardless of what humans intend or not. Like it's gonna end up being phallic because it's like I don't want to go into a huge spiel about symbolism, but I know you'd personally know what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I was just laughing because I noticed what Adam said in the chat. The Black Tower is the Trump Tower of Zelda. It's like,
Nah, Varen and Ambi aren't Trump. They're actually the opposite. They want to spill over into other powers. They don't want to close themselves off from the world.
yeah.
I would actually say they're the opposite. So how would one make a tower feminine? I don't think you really can. Something feminine would be the opposite. It'd be something wide. It'd be something horizontal.
Yeah.
I mean, you could if you were being conscious about it and you freaking put feminine aspects to like a tower, you would have to sacrifice the integrity of the tower. So inevitably, like the more feminine you made it, the less masculine become, and it would cease being a tower basically. So I know everything I'm saying is probably gonna like hurt the brains of like modern people because of the modern perspective on genders, but I'm speaking symbolically, not yeah.
Yeah. someone really wants you to talk about the gameplay, so I guess
Okay,
we can
yeah,
go
let's
into
talk
that.
about Labrynna's gameplay. Well, I earlier I talked about how all their buildings are tiered.
Yeah.
Basically they have like I think 6 or 7 buildings. Like even their castle buildings like this. They have buildings that start out kind of crummy and they start out medieval like the other factions, and then as you go from the town phase or the village phase to the town phase to the city phase, you can upgrade each individual building. And then the final one adds all the pipes and the their modern technology. Well, not modern by our standards, but modern relative to the other powers in Hyrule. They add all of their pipes and stuff to the buildings, and like what their farm building. It just starts out as like a field where you could send workers to gather from the field, and then when you upgrade it completely, it automatically just gathers food by itself. Same thing for their like storehouse where they drop off resources. Um, when you first build it, it's just a drop off point where the workers, take the resources to. But when you fully upgrade it, it automatically gathers the resources with that are near it by itself. So there's kind of like this theme of slowly moving towards automation.
But did you ever? Because I remember way back, way back, we talked about you wanted the gameplay to reflect kind of the nature of Labrynna, where they deplete, literally shooting themselves. They are literally shooting themselves
Yeah.
as time goes on.
Yes.
It really should be in the game.
Well, they constantly need more and more resources. I suspect, unlike some other factions, they'll have no way to. Because some factions they have a way to create something where they basically can they become self sufficient with a certain resource. Like most factions can create farms that last forever. Which I don't know. I might actually want to change that. Or the Zora can build the coral mold farms where they can basically gather ore indefinitely. They'll never run out of ore, even if the map runs out of ore. I don't think Labrynna will have any. Well, except for maybe their farms, they won't have any structure where they can indefinitely gather resources.
Yeah, because I mean, it should really tie into their theme, where it's kind of the irony, right? Where not only do they want to expand and conquer ideologically, they have to.
Yeah, they have to support themselves to keep the thing going. It's literally like a train engine. You have to keep shoving coal in it, or it'll. Well, not modern train engines, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a self-perpetuating system that if it's not constantly perpetuated, it just destroys itself. Which that's how technology works in general. You have to keep perpetuating it, or it'll break on you eventually.
Yeah.
I would argue that's what all skins or garments of skin are like. Eventually, they'll fail you.
Yeah. I mean, that would also imply that if you incorporate such a mechanic into the game, you're on a timer essentially, because you're dependent on the resources on the map and how many you're able to conquer essentially.
Yeah,
You're really dependent
that's probably why they're so good at like conquering minor factions and just absorbing all the stuff they have to fuel
Yeah.
their efforts. I also apologize if I'm to the audience if I'm like coughing or sniffling or making noises with my throat. I've had like a terrible cold over the last week. I've only just gotten over it like the last 2 days, and my nose is still really stuffy. I keep like missing out on the chat. I'm really sorry to everyone in the chat. I'm gonna try and look at some of the questions. Are Tokay in the unit roster? Yes, a lot of Labrynna's starting units are actually Tokay slaves of some kind. Their workers are Tokay slaves. They have they're the like first soldiers they can train are like Tokays with spears.
Well, when I looked at took a look at the list, because you posted that list, I believe, in Discord, but
Yeah, I
I
posted
didn't
it in the
see
patron
I
Discord.
I didn't see a generic gunner unit for them.
No, their guns are like really late game.
But they will never get one. I think they will only get cannons and ribolts
No,
and stuff like that.
the
The siege engine.
conquerors are their musketmen, and also
Are they
they're
just pistol? Are they pistoliers?
no they're rifles. They're more like
Oh, okay.
muskets. They're
Oh, okay.
And then their commander unit, the Brigada, he has a pistol, and also their cavalry has pistols too. So they have 3 units with firearms, and then they have 3 siege engines with gunpowder. They got cannons, and then the Oregon gun. Oh, actually, only Queen Ambi has the Oregon gun. And then they have. I wanted to get rid of it, but I ended up deciding to keep it. They'll have the damn steam tank.
Yeah, I thought you said you didn't want to use the steam tank.
I really didn't. I don't think. I think it's too late though. I don't think I can get rid of the steam tank. I'm
You
gonna.
were really close though. You were really.
I was
close.
really close to axing it. I know.
I'm telling everyone in the stream. You can thank me because I was like, don't do it. People are gonna be mad.
Yeah.
They're gonna be really mad.
I was really close to axing the steam tank because I just wasn't happy with the idea of. But the thing is, there are some great sea factions that have vehicles like that. So I'm like, I guess it's fine. Like the Locomo have some vehicles, and the Ocean Blends they have a tank like vehicle too. So it's not just Labrynna. I think I was more upset with the idea that Labrynna's the only faction with something like this.
Yeah.
But they're not. Adam's like, add the land mantis. No. I remember the land mantis.
It's not like their technology is going to waste. Like initially, they are an unstoppable war machine, just laying waste to everything. So it's not like they had this tech for ages and they didn't do anything with it. As soon as they start mass producing it, they're really kicking everyone's asses.
Yeah.
So it makes sense in the context of the world. It makes sense. Like I think a lot of people I've seen people assume that Labrynna, and yeah, it is an old nation. It's a very old culture, but that they somehow had all this technology for ages and they didn't really do anything with it. That's not how it is. Really recent.
Someone asks, will Labrynna get trains? They are in the process of developing them, but they won't actually have them. Those come later, unfortunately.
Choo choo.
Choo choo. Or should I say they came once upon a time.
No spoilers, dude.
Yeah.
After the stream.
I apologize for me blowing my nose. I sound like DSP. Snorting and making noises with my throat and nose. What other gameplay stuff could we talk about Labrynna? Yeah, we talked about how they could conquer minor factions easier, which actually can be implemented in the next version. I just need to add the damage bonus to. I need to add, I guess, a minor class to all the minor faction units, and then just add a damage bonus against that class for all of Labrynna's units. We also talked about how their buildings upgrade and stuff, how their resource gathering leads towards like an automation where they don't need workers. They have gunpowder. I guess they're not the only faction with gunpowder though, which that used to be the case, but now there's several that have gun. I mean, I guess technically the Gorons kind of have gunpowder anyway.
Yeah, someone asked like, they seem really overpowered, and what would their weakness be? Like, if they need a weakness, or you're just gonna curb stomp everyone, right?
Well,
and I think we did touch upon that though.
I mean, the easiest or the first thing that comes into mind is that they're incredibly expensive. That's usually the first go-to for like an RTS game. When you have a very powerful unit, you just make it really expensive. Obviously, that's not like a perfect solution. Most of their powerful units are late game though. Like they won't have guns until they've fully gone up the tech tree. Yeah. So it's not like you'll be able to start spamming gunners after like 10 minutes. Most of their early game units are medieval. Like they have just maces and swords and shields, and they will have pikes. I know people have been asking for ages for them to have pikes. They will have pikes. The reason they did not have pikes in the Total War version of the game is because pikemen were broken in that game. They literally were broken.
Extremely busted.
And if I remember right, it had something to do with animations, because all the stuff in Medieval 2 is actually based on animations, which is actually really realistic, but if you screw up with that, I can't remember exactly how they were broken. It's been so many years since I've messed with medieval too,
Yeah.
but
I mean, historically, pikes are pretty overpowered. So.
no, they were overpowered in a way where the developers like it was a screw up on the developers'
Yeah,
part.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
range.
so
But
what?
range though.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what other gameplay stuff they might have. That's most of their main stuff is tiered buildings, gunpowder, and slowly becoming more automated. They like start out crappy and they get. I mean, most of the factions start out crappy and get more powerful, but they start out really crappy and they proportionally they get really powerful compared to how they start out.
Yeah.
Whereas like the Gorons kind of start out strong and they do get stronger, but they don't have like this huge like spike in power. Whereas Labrynna, like they almost start out like a swarm faction, and then by the end of the game, they like their power spikes and they have freaking guns and tanks.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they do sound broken.
They do, and and despite my efforts when they first release, they probably will be broken, but we'll find ways to make them less broken.
I mean, this is just a MOBA way. Is that whenever you introduce something new to game, you should make it busted, so to so to make the new potentially new players feel like badasses. This is how it goes, guys. It's one-on-one game design.
Yeah.
Always release the new stuff should always be overpowered.
I mean, according to Iron Wolf, the freaking Dark Nuts were super underpowered. I thought the Dark Nuts were going to be completely broken when I released them. I'm like, these guys are going to be so powerful, everyone's going to complain about them. But apparently the Dark Nuts actually ended up being underpowered. Which I guess doesn't surprise me considering they're so stationary and slow. I guess I shouldn't really be surprised by that.
No.
I guess I was giving into like the kid mentality. Oh, they got big, powerful soldiers. That means they're better. Not necessarily. Logistics play a really important role in even like arcadey RTS games. Like your ability to control the map is almost as important as how strong your guys are, if not more important.
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, I still think, regardless of how overpowered Labrynna is going to be, a bunch of Sora mages is still going to...
Yeah, the bunch of Zora mages will still waste them. I don't know if Iron
nice
Wolf's...
guns.
What?
No, like, nice guns. Here, have a type.
Yeah, also, one thing to keep in mind about the guns is they take forever to reload, so...
Got a micro there.
Yeah, their gun, it's not gonna be like, the mages have a pretty consistent fire rate, whereas the gunners, they gotta work that gunpowder. They don't have barreled guns.
Yeah.
They're one-shot rifles. Gotta do it the old-fashioned way. Although Labrynna does have crossbows too, which also take a while to reload, but not quite as long. Yeah, someone pointed out their guns are probably inaccurate. I don't know if I could do malfunctioning because if like Labrynna crossed a river, that would jam their guns, especially old guns like that. That would screw with their gunpowder if their guns got all wet. Or if like the Zora, all they have to do to defeat Labrynna is just throw some water at them. All their guns like start to jam and spark.
Split flush.
The great weakness of Labrynna's empire is water. Symbolically, that makes sense. They're bringing about the flood.
Yeah, Hyrule Conquest is actually an elaborate, science fan fiction. Water is the answer to everything.
And I don't know, the Zora are one of the few powers that actually gets destroyed like completely in Nephy canon. So is Labrynna though, I guess.
Yeah.
So I guess never mind. Labrynna gets completely. I was gonna go on a tangent about how Labrynna outlasts the Zora Dominion, but Labrynna gets destroyed completely too. So I mean, quite a few powers do. The Zora do. Labrynna does. The Gorons do.
The Zora don't though, because like
their people don't. But I mean their empire, their political identity fractures and gets absorbed by other empires.
Oh
Same
yeah,
same
yeah.
thing with Labrynna. Obviously, the Labrynna people don't all go extinct. They get absorbed by their conquerors. Same thing
Yeah.
with the Gorons. The whole Goron, because that was more because of ecological disaster, though. And it's not that the Gorons were destroyed by their enemies. Like Death Mountain itself just stopped supporting them, so they all kind of just spread out and move along. That's kind of why the Goron Empire falls apart. The Gerudo survive longer than you'd think. Inevitably, they kick the bucket, but the Gerudo lasts longer than I'd expect. What other empires fall? I know they're. I guess the
Most of them.
Moblins have fallen and reconstituted themselves multiple times. They've fallen and come back.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's kind of, it's not really spoilers. Like, if you guys been paying attention to the story, it's kind of heavily implied that eventually everything is kind of absorbed into.
Even the Kingdom of Hyrule, by the end of Nephy canon, is unrecognizable to how Hyrule is, at the start, like right now. So even the Hylians, they kind of go away. And apparently Iron Wolf is in the chat, and he has a different name, and I think he's the. I don't know if he wants me to give away his name, but yeah, Iron Wolf's actually in the chat. We keep mentioning him, but he's there. I'm sorry. I'm doing a terrible job keeping up with the chat. Someone says Hylia's Hitler. I would not say she is. I mean, she's. I guess she does see the Hylians as like. I wouldn't directly compare her to Hitler. Obviously, there's similarities because she is kind of a fascist, but I don't think she's ethnically driven in the same way Hitler was. She's not. Her goal isn't to like exterminate other races, even though she sees Hylians as like her special people, I guess. So there's some parallels, I guess, but I would not say it's like a 1-to-1 analog. But if you go back and there's a lot of people that were in power that were like that, like they put their people before everyone else. What other things are going on in the chat? When magic guns get made in Hyrule, it's over. I guess I would argue that guns are a form of magic to begin with. All technology probably agree. I feel like there is a distinction between magic and technology, even though if you go back in history, they kind of follow the same category.
I sort of disagree because I would say technology is an inherent expression of. Well, magic tends to be an inherent expression of heaven.
Yes.
At least to me.
I think you. The thing is, you do need an element of heaven to come up with technology. But the way technology manifests is exactly like you said. It's you use the earth to manifest it, whereas magic is the abstract kind of expressing itself. I start to sound esoteric here and kind of lose people in my audience, but yeah, I've never thought of it that way, but I think that's the perfect way to.
Is he cutting out for you as well?
Yeah, you're going full robot.
I'll give it a second. My internet might be I don't know. It says I have 4 bars. My internet should be good. Do I still sound like a robot?
It just happens occasionally.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess it's better than me snorting and coughing like DSP.
I guess that's true.
But yeah, as I was saying, I've never thought of it before, but I think that's a perfect way to the difference between magic and technology. Well, one is an expression of Earth, and the other is an expression of
Yeah, and then again, it's not like a law because it kind of depends on the magic in the universe that it's being written in. You know, you have the entire thing with Anderson's goes on about with hard magic systems. It really depends on how you're depicting it. I would still say that, at least in the context of very much a soft magic system, very much rooted in rather than the material. There are fictional universes go about to make magic very material.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well,
it really depends.
I mean, this is probably going to lose half my audience and make me sound really backwards, but I'd argue that magic actually is real. It's just not what people think it is. My favorite example is a talisman. You know how like once upon a time people would wear talisman and they'd think it had some kind of magical effect on people. Talisman. I hate to break it to people, but talismans still exist. They're business suits. A business suit and a tie is a talisman. I don't know if I'm still going
Placebo is
robot.
magic.
Yeah, placebo is magic. Exactly. It has a real intangible effect, even though there's no material component to it at all. Like, that's basically what magic is. Magic is real tangible effects on the world with no obvious material component. I'd argue that's what it is. Although something like a business suit is a material component. So I guess it's not even that's ideas affecting people.
Yeah, but yeah.
So yes, I would argue that magic does exist. It's just not what people think it is. Because because people think about it in a materialistic sense. So it's kind of ironic. Or they try to think of magic in like a material way. So it like doesn't. I don't know. I think you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's ironic that a lot of fans to make magic like into some materialistic thing. Even Star Wars does, which is funny because I think Star Wars tries to argue the opposite, but it does the opposite of what it's trying to do. It ends up making the Force like incredibly materialistic.
Yeah.
I went on a huge tangent now, or
yeah, but basically what I was going to on my tangent, at least on my portion of the tangent, was Hyrule's magic is soft and it's very much rooted in,
I think
which may contrast to technology.
yeah, YouTube is acting like the stream is disconnecting, so I'm not sure if we're still live. Can you guys in the chat still hear us, or are we all going robot? Can you all hear us in the chat? I don't know. YouTube is acting like we've disconnected. My internet's so bad. Can you guys hear us? No one's saying they can hear us. So I think we might not be live anymore.
Well, apparently people can still hear.
I guess.
Hear us.
All right. YouTube's just throwing a fit at me then. I apologize in advance if the live stream gets disconnected. My internet's not good, but yeah, they can hear us. All right. It's lagging a bit though, according to Codeman. All right. Well, I apologize. My internet's kind of bad. These are very unprofessional streams.
But it's part of the charm. I mean, it barely works, but that's how it goes.
I guess it represents how my work. It barely works, but that's the part of the charm. I mean, it works better than it did in Medieval 2, I guess.
I'm just gonna say, for the first couple of streams, I actually tried to keep a bunch of notes so that we could stay on topic. Let's just say I threw that,
I did too. I'd go in beforehand with notes too. I'd open up Notepad++, and I'd have like a list of bullet points. I'm a robot.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we did streams like a year ago, I'd open up a notepad and I'd have like a list of bullet points. But yeah, I don't do that anymore. Yeah, I remember when we tried to do these like 1 2. That's not happening anymore. That's like once every 3 months.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair though, everyone has been kind of dealing with.
Yeah, even me. November was
a
like
few months.
one of the craziest months I've had in a long time. According to the chat, there's like a minute of lag, but people can still hear us. So
Yeah.
yeah, they're probably all a minute behind what we're saying.
Let's check the chat if there's something interesting to pick up.
Yeah, I mean, I could go on and on and on about the whole next part of Hyrule Historia. I guess if we don't have any more, I guess we could talk about the AI. I mean, I think Exo's kind of fallen asleep.
Yep. Again.
I don't even know if he's still there, but I guess people have been asking him about the AI. I mean, I don't really him. I kind of just let Exo do whatever he does. But I know that
Exo fix the AI.
yeah, the
Come on.
Exodarian is working on the AI, and from the last time I spoke to him, I think he's almost done with the Kingdom of Hyrule's. But I think we lost him. I think he fell asleep. It's really late in his time, so he's normally asleep by now.
He's a normie.
Shut up, Diog.
Oh, there he is.
There you go. That's how we get him.
You want me to talk about the AI? What do you want me? What do you want me?
I don't know. Is
About
there
the AI?
anything? I mean, if you don't want to talk about him, that's fine. But if there's anything you want to talk about, or like let people know what you've been doing with the AI, or I don't know, maybe you haven't been working on the AI. I don't know. Last time I talked to you was a week ago.
I've mainly just been enjoying the
Enjoying what?
holiday,
Oh yeah, I kind of did
it's like the
too.
holiday period. But so for the people that don't know, being reworked, been working it for a while now. It's actually I was already reworking it somewhere in what was it
When I was
then?
working on the
Yeah.
Moblins, I think you started on the AI.
Yeah,
So like 8 months
uh,
ago now.
yeah. But in between, I stopped for a bit because I was going to work on the and
Oh yeah, we did
I
the
think it
first
was
mission.
and I think it was knockback or something that he actually I think knockback even came after that. So there was something in between, and there were multiple mechanics. So I started a while ago, but anyway, I did make a continuation on it already. I fixed quite a few things here and there. I tweaked. Okay, maybe I should first explain what is ready and what isn't ready. So what the AI is now currently able to do is they're able to gather, they're able to build, they're able to expand. They are able to train units. They're training their citizens, and so basically they're training everything and they're building everything pretty much the way I want them to. But there's obviously still tweaking being done in terms of expanding. I've had Insomniac. He tested the AI on his part, and there's still a few loopholes. So, for example, if the AI loses all of their civil centers, they don't know what to do anymore, which I expected, but I didn't even really think of it. But that's something that I also have to take into account. So there are a lot of little things that I want to either add or tweak to the AI so they expand or build correctly. But that was mainly a testing phase. And so what I was working on most recently was trading and what's this other thing? And bartering. So I did the bartering thing already. Then that's pretty much. Now it's just the trading. And after trading, I wanted to do attacking and defending, which is going to be a big deal. But once attacking and defending is in, I want to do more testing and have other people take a look at it and see what they think.
I'll be one of those
But that
people.
that's basically what I'm at right now. And I had a few cool ideas already in mind for afterward. Oh, there's one other thing I forgot, which is technologies. The AI still needs to be able to research technologies, but I already have quite a few things set up for technologies, so I don't think that will take very long. I just need to set up a system where the AI would make reasonable judgments when to get certain technologies. That's the only thing. I did have a discussion. Do I even want to call it a discussion or whatever you want to call it? Where someone asked me if the AI will have different personalities based upon well the action or the hero that's been, and so whether they're more aggressive or more defensive, things like that. I think
Apparently,
that's some.
apparently the stream is really lagging according to Codeman.
Is it?
Wonderful. It's probably my fault, even though YouTube says I have an excellent connection now. Apparently, everyone's about 2 minutes behind us.
Ooh.
That's really
Yeah,
bad. I'm almost
that's
wondering
pretty.
if I should like end the stream and restart it.
I was gonna suggest that, but the last time we did that, it kind of went to hell. Remember that?
Yeah. Yeah, we got
I'm kind of
50
worried.
viewers. I mean, actually, this is like one of the largest audiences I've ever had.
I mean, if everyone wants to take the risk, I guess we could do it. I don't know how
I'll go ahead
everyone's
and
in chat
ask in the
goes.
chat since they won't be hearing this for 2 minutes.
Yeah, because then we can actually interact with the
Yeah,
chat a bit more.
it's probably gonna happen even if I restart it too, just because my internet's so bad. Should we just restart the stream? Yeah, 2 minutes is pretty bad if everyone's that far behind.
Yeah.
Oh no, now it says I have an excellent connection, but no one seems to be responding to me in the chat though. This is a real professional stream, Nephy.
There we go.
There we go. All right. So it'll probably cut off this part if everyone's 2 minutes behind, but if it doesn't, then you're listening to this in the future, there'll be a part 2. All right, everyone, restarting stream. I mean, we were behind when I started, but anyway, so end the stream.